Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything. Today, I coach two really powerful women, Rachel and Sunny. Rachel left her career 6 months ago and is judging herself because she hasn't had the success that she was hoping for yet. Except she set the bar really, really high and forgot that she's the one who set the bar. Sunny's still working in her corporate job and wondering how to describe herself in the world. Here's the funny thing. I'm a lover of language. And what we forget is that all words were made up at one point. And today, I help each of these powerful women redefine themselves. And when they do, they feel more empowered than they felt before we even began. It was a fun conversation with two really fascinating women. Hi, Sunny.
Hi, Rich.
Thank you for staying up so late for me today.
Yeah, no, more than happy to. Excited.
And Rachel, hi.
Hey there.
Now you're in the car because like me, you're homeschooling and we've got to try and find innovative ways to get the kids out of our field of vision for a while, right?
Yeah, I'm about a block away from my house with the doors locked, so we should be okay for now.
That's what you think. So Rachel, you came here for a reason. How can I support you today? What would you like to be coached on?
Yeah, thank you. I came here because the way that my trajectory has been in my business so far has been a process of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So I see growth and progress for sure. I would love to see more fast. I would love to see a little acceleration. I'd love to see, my efforts amplified. I have really big dreams for myself, and I don't see my pace and where I am at the moment being able to meet what I want for myself going forward.
Gotcha. So you're like, since you're in the car right now, you're like when we're driving somewhere with the kids in the back and they're saying, "Mummy, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Because it doesn't feel like that you're there yet.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge for us as entrepreneurs. We're always future focused. We're looking at the horizon. The problem is the horizon never arrives. So let me ask you, when you talk about your business, what business is it that you're referring to?
My coaching practice.
Mm-hmm. And how long has that coaching practice been running?
It's taken on lots of different forms over the years. I was much more part-time. I went full-time and quit my day job and everything else in the summertime, this past summer. So it's been, let's say, 6 or so months since I really went full-time with this.
What was the previous job you were doing when you were working part-time as well as coaching? What were you doing?
I was coaching. I was doing a few things. I was doing community outreach. I was a school administrator, and I was also on campus.
Was that full-time effectively?
Yeah, it was all quite full-time.
Right. So, Sunny, I don't know if you noticed this, but what Rachel just told us is that 6 months ago, she went full-time in a new business. I'm going to guess this next piece, and she'll tell us if I'm correct, that she didn't even give herself a break to relax, to take time off between finishing that career and going into full-time coaching. And within 6 months, she's already judging herself because it's not flying fast enough. That's what I'm hearing. Rachel, how close am I to the truth on that?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. It's the challenge of being a high performer. We keep setting the bar high and not hitting our own bar and forgetting that we're the one who set the bar in the first place. Congratulations on leaving a career you've been in for a long time.
Thank you.
Because while you're looking at the horizon, I want to look back for a minute. It takes a lot of courage to leave a career that you feel safe in and know, even if you know you're done with it. It takes a lot of courage. I had to be fired from my job in the world of education. I don't think I'd have had the courage to do it myself. I really want to honor you for your courage in taking this step into creating a new business and a new life outside of the world you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want it to sink in for a second. Did you give yourself any time from finishing full-time work to transitioning into coaching?
No, not formally. I also have 4 kids at home, including a teenager and toddler. So I have my life is busy and I like it that way. And I don't know that I would be happy to take time off. I love doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm not talking about taking time off to do nothing or to sit on the couch watching Netflix all day. This is what we get a bit afraid of. We're afraid that if we take any time off, that we'll end up lying on the couch eating that bowl of Cheetos balanced on our tummy and watching Netflix for hours and hours at a time. And I'm not talking about that, but I am talking about giving yourself time. Because, what are you building a business for? Isn't it to have a great life? So it's the bit that we miss. You've got to start by creating a great life and then build the business around it, not wait until hopefully one day, otherwise there'll be no space for that great life to happen. I made $4,500 in my first year as a coach. I started charging people $10 an hour, and I was excited about that. I'd never had anybody pay me for just being with them and talking to them. I was really excited by that.
I hear what you're saying. Also, I not to push back, but I have been coaching, before this for a while. So I definitely didn't feel like, while I felt that the business structure was new to me, the coaching wasn't. And honestly, because I was working different types of projects for different organizations, I was actually really slowing down in a lot of ways by starting my business.
Yeah.
Even now, like when I have a day in front of me and I get to figure out how I'm going to fill my time effectively, it's a huge departure from what was even a year ago.
Look, I get it. You've been coaching for a long time. You bring really great, powerful skills with you into what you're creating next. What you haven't been until now is an entrepreneur. And you're now a business owner. And there are very different skills building a business where you coach than using your coaching skills as an administrator or as a leader or as a manager. And that's what we're talking about. And you're 6 months into this new journey with a business. And I heard you say, I take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, which tells me that you're making 1 step at a time. That's progress. You didn't say 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, which many of us go through in the early days of a business. So I'm still acknowledging you for what you've done. I love that you're looking at the horizon and set the bar high for where you want to go. Humans have a track record for doing impossible things. But what humans are not very good at doing is estimating the time frame in which it will happen. And you've set the bar like really tight and challenging for you to make success happen and check all these boxes off. And now you're judging yourself because it hasn't happened as fast as you would like.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'll let you sit with that for a moment. Hey, Sunny, what did you come to speak about today? What would make this a great session for you?
I'd love to kind of play around the concept of, who I would love to create an impact for. So, it's similar to Rachel, I'm in that kind of coaching arena. And I've heard you talk before about, psychographics, which resonates so much for me in terms of mindset and, kind of being drawn to that. But I also feel like perhaps I might be able to have an impact within certain demographics, but I think that's something I've always shied away from, because I think historically sometimes I've been perhaps tried to be pigeonholed into one of those demographics. So it's something that feels a bit kind of raw for me. And so I've spent so much of my adult life trying to prove that I don't need to fit within a demographic, that it feels like perhaps I'm regressing by going there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know that line from the movie, nobody puts baby in the corner? It's like nobody puts Sunny in a box. Nobody's going to label me. That's the energy I'm feeling.
100%. You've captured that perfectly.
Nice. What did you get from me working with Rachel just now? What's one insight that came for you?
So I when I was hearing Rachel talk, I was in awe a little bit. I was like, you're literally Superwoman, you know. And I love two of the points really resonated. One, when you mentioned that, you know, even though Rachel might feel like she's taking a bit of a step back, she's moving forward, you know. And that's really kind of important to celebrate and recognize. But I think the key thing that hit me is around that space, and sometimes creating that space for us to be able to kind of move into, you know, where we want to go next, and really giving ourselves that time and space. Yeah,
that's true. Sunny, can you move the mic a little bit away from your mouth, because we're on a podcast and that will pick up the breathing if you do. That's perfect. Yeah. Rachel, one of my mentors, a man named Alan Weiss, says true wealth is discretionary time. So what we want to make sure that you create whenever you're creating next is time for you. 4 kids, oh my God, I've got 2. I struggle. I don't know how you're doing it with 4, and you've been homeschooling, and you've just left a career working as an administrator in the school system, and now you're building a new business from scratch. That's a lot. Now, you can't see it because it's the world you swim in. For you, it's just life, but it's a lot. And I'm glad Sunny's here to acknowledge that too. I wonder if you can hear it as we're both saying it, that maybe this world that you swim in is not the world that it has to be. And I'm not saying you have to slow down the energy you love to bring into the world, but I am saying, wouldn't it be fun to create a business where you could have time for you? Where you didn't have to sit in the car to get it. You can create time for you to really nurture and take care of yourself.
Yeah. And it was driven home in that conversation that I was listening to just now.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Sunny. That was great. Thanks, Rachel. So, Sunny, let me ask it this way. What do you want to create so I can help you guide you around this?
I think I would love to create a really powerful impact, you know, and I think that's where I kind of want to play around with, is where can I have that biggest impact?
So who are your clients now? Who do you coach? How long have you been coaching? Take me back.
So in some ways around a year, but in other ways throughout my career in some form or the other.
Great.
And here I'm listening to you and taking that forward. But, you know,
but professionally,
a year, yeah. I'm still doing, I'm still in my corporate job as well. So.
I love that. I love people when they're doing some part-time coaching. I think that's a great way to play, because you've got the safety of the world that you know, you've got a new way you can build things. What do you do in your corporate life?
I work in finance. So I'm an accountant by profession. And yeah, I work in finance.
What do you love about accounting?
It kind of, you know, makes sense. It's logical. But, you know, interpreted in the right way, you can help people make decisions that can be really impactful. And I love that interpretation side.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. That gives me some context. With coaching, who do you coach? Is it just anyone who shows up? Because when I started, that was if you breathed and you had a checkbook, I'd coach you.
A little bit like that at the moment, although, you know, definitely having really listened to you over the last few months, I'm now more in the process of really kind of, you know, having those conversations before, just to make sure that more and more now people are the right fit. And I suppose what I've been looking at is that whole kind of psychographic and mindset piece in order to do that.
So for anyone who's listening who's not familiar with this, most people think you need to find your clients according to a demographic. I work with women in transition. I work with men in their 30s. I work with people who have founded a business and are now scaling. I work with businesses that are between $500,000 and $1 million a year. Now, those are all nice demographics, and it starts to make it really easy for people to say, oh, I fit into that box, we should talk. I'm much more interested in a psychographic. That's the mindsets of your dream clients. And the shortcut to this is that your dream client is you. And you guys have heard me talk about that, I know, in the past. So your dream client is you. Your dream client is someone who thinks like you, approaches life like you, has interests and desires much like yours. That makes sense?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's missing here? Where shall I go in this conversation? We seem to be on the same page in all of this.
Yeah, it's just so when I kind of draw out to myself who I am and who my ideal client is, I suppose none of the piece around demographics comes in at all. And I suppose where I'm really thinking, just to go in a bit kind of deeper on it, is that, for example, when I'm drawing out my story or who I am or who I'm kind of drawn to serve, it's people who are perhaps kind of working in that corporate world, or people who have got the same dark sides that I have in terms of kind of fears or struggles. But I haven't really kind of tapped into that side of when I was kind of growing up. Perhaps it was difficult to fit in, or even.
Let me slow you down for a second.
Yeah.
Let me slow you down, because you're dancing around this, and I want to get to the heart of where this is. There's nothing wrong with seeking out clients who fit into a demographic. One of my clients came out of the corporate world. He did multi-million-dollar complex sales in the tech world, came into coaching, would coach anyone who'd show up. It took a couple of years before he had this realization. The way he puts it, he says, I like working in glass buildings. He says, I liked it when I was in sales because I had a nice, I forget, Mercedes or BMW. I had a great Rolex on my watch and I had great suits. And I actually liked that stuff. And he's gone back into the corporate world because he loves to work with leaders like him. And his clients are senior level leaders who get him and he gets them. So there's nothing wrong with choosing a demographic if it really speaks to you. There's also nothing wrong with you talking about your story, the parts of your life that you've hidden for a long time. There's either way you can go. What's the problem here? I haven't got to the heart of the problem. What's the challenge that you've got right now?
Yeah, I think that's been really helpful just to hear you say that, because I think that's the bit that I was kind of a little bit stuck in, because I didn't necessarily want to go towards, just coaching people within the corporate world, or perhaps people from a Asian background, or people, just women within the finance world. And it kind of felt like I didn't want to pigeonhole within one of those. But I think that approaching something from a kind of mindset perspective, but still being drawn to those areas, kind of feels like that is where I could create value.
Well, let me ask you this, because I have a client right now who's in 4PC, my group of high-level leaders. She coaches women leaders of color. That's what she wants to do. She's very clear about it. And she was very afraid when she first told me that, because she would say, but I also coach male leaders. I'm brought in all the time to work with male leaders. And some of my leaders I work with are white. They're not leaders of color. They're white. And she was very afraid. And I would tell her, look, years ago when I first started coaching, I quite quickly began to coach mainly very powerful women. And when people say, what do you do? I would say, I coach powerful women. And men would always say, do you ever coach men? It didn't have people go, oh, well, there's no point in me talking to you. It made people very curious about me. It's counterintuitive, but the more specific you get about the kind of person you work with, A, those people start to knock on your door, and B, other people will start to ask you, hey, will you ever work with someone who doesn't fit into that group here?
I've loved hearing that. It's kind of a little bit like a light bulb, because I think that was the kind of fear behind that am I am I just shutting off, potentially other people that I could really support and have a great impact on by just saying, I am this? But
Well,
actually, I think that's
funny
quite
enough,
powerful.
yes, I hope so. Because the moment you start to shut off from people, people get really curious about you. So if we get off this call and someone says, oh, I heard you were speaking to Sunny, what does she do? And I say, well, she works with people who have struggled sometimes in their life, people who sometimes have big dreams, people who've maybe worked in corporate world, perhaps are leaving, transitioning out of it. It's so wide and so broad, it's hard to know where to go. If we went into, and you haven't really talked about some of the dark sides of your life, but if I said this, well, Sunny's an expert at working with women leaders who come from an Asian background and are working in the corporate world. Suddenly, people get really curious. The moment you say, I'm an expert in, we get curious. Tell me more about that. What does that mean? Why is she an expert in that?
Yeah, I've just loved hearing that back, and that's really hit.
Yeah. In fact, the moment I say, because I said those words out loud, then my system kind of heard them, I know some women leaders who are of Asian origin, who are in the corporate world, who I could immediately connect you with, whether they were potential clients or potential people just to have great conversations with. And that's what happens when you start to get specific. And whether it's around, like you're calling this a demographic or a way that people think, when you can overlap the two, it gets even more interesting, because it's not every Asian woman who's a leader in the corporate world. Both of us know that some of them would show up and you'd go, oh my God, there's no way I want to spend any time with her.
Yeah.
So you'll start to layer into that. Oh, well, you have to think this way. Maybe you have to be innovative in the way that you think, or whatever it is you're going to layer over the top of that. And now you've got a way of talking about what you do that has people go, oh my God, that's me.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Rachel, what have you got from hearing this piece of the conversation?
It was really interesting to hear from me, because I think ambition can sometimes drive me to say, like, how big can I go and wide can I go? And I think what you're bringing home to Sunny here is that going deep and narrow is a more powerful way of conducting yourself in this world of entrepreneurship and coaching. So I got that.
Yeah. Even if you want to go wide, and I'm not the guy who teaches people to go wide, I teach people to build a boutique practice with a handful of high-performing, high-fee clients. That's what fascinates me. But even if you want to go wide, go deep first. Become known for something here. Then you can build on that. And instead, I meet so many coaches who I want to have 1 million followers. If you try to go wide at the beginning, most people will struggle. Go deep to go wide. That's the conversation we've been having here. So Rachel, where's that true for you? Where could you go deeper right now?
Can I just ask a clarification question on what you just said first?
Yeah.
You said, I know from your background that you started off as that confidence guy, you said?
Yeah.
That where you went deep first before going wide?
Yeah. So when I started coaching, I figured I had struggled with confidence for so much of my life. I wanted to learn about it. So I spent a year or two traveling around the world, interviewing people about confidence. And then I started coaching people around confidence. I did these instant confidence sessions, 30-minute sessions. And somebody said to me once, Rich, you can't brand around confidence because confidence is an abstraction. It doesn't exist, right? You can't put it in a wheelbarrow. You can't touch it. And I said, I'm not trying to brand around confidence. I'm just interested in it. And it was my thing. I wasn't trying to create a brand. I wasn't trying to go wide. I was just studying it. And then we can often, our greatest gift is often the thing we struggle with the most. Turns out I was really good at helping others become confident because I struggled with it. So I wasn't trying to create a brand. I wasn't trying to go wide. It was just the thing that interested me at that moment in time. What began to happen is a lot of I'll take you back even further. I used to say, I coach men who want more passion in their relationships with women. And what was very interesting about that is that women who'd hear me say that would go, can you help me? And very quickly, I didn't coach many men around that. probably wouldn't have been very good about that. I struggle with that myself. Very quickly, I ended up coaching lots of women, and very powerful women began to show up. I created what I called the Confident Women's Salon. And for a couple of years, I was interviewing the Forbes 100 most powerful women and those on their way. And I became known for my work with powerful women. And then there came a moment when Steve and I partnered together. We wrote a book called The Prosperous Coach. And I was known for my work with The Prosperous Coach and helping coaches build a boutique practice. And then I became known for my work with high performers. So it's constantly shifted. Mm-hmm. And I hope that takes the pressure off you guys. Like, you don't have to nail it. You really don't. I've made so many mistakes in what I thought I was going to be about. In fact, I was doing these instant confidence sessions, and I thought that was a fantastic thing. And Steve Chandler said to me, Rich, do you want to be known as the guy who does 30-minute confidence sessions for the rest of your life? And I went, oh my God, no. I want to be known as the guy you spend a year of your life with me and your world will transform. And that was it. I never did another instant confidence session.
Yeah, no, that's really helped take the pressure off. It really has.
Good. Here's the funny thing. I don't talk about this very often, but I've realized, Rachel, that I'm still doing this confidence work. I don't talk about it. I don't brand around it. You'll often hear me say I help powerful people to remember how powerful they are. I mean, each of you have seen that the other one is very powerful, and I've just been reminding you of that. But really underneath it all, that's what I'm still doing to this day. I'm helping people bring back a sense of confidence. Oh yeah, you've got this. No kind of rah-rah, you've got this, but just, yeah, you've got this. So you can feel it deep down inside. It's inside of you instead of me telling you, you feel it. So I'm still doing that work. I'm still that confidence guy, apparently, even though I don't even talk about it. So I think we're there in this moment. This is a beautiful moment to leave because we're in this journey together. It's what I said earlier around time frames. We give ourselves a short time frame. We set a goal. We either hit it and then celebrate for 20 seconds and then move on. That's what we do as high performers. Or we don't hit it and we judge ourselves and we forget that we set the goal in the first place. Move those goals out. Rachel, if you move it out, if you look at like, what do I want to accomplish in 10 years? What do I want my life to look like? The kids will be a lot older. How much space do I want for myself? How much money would I love to be creating in 10 years? That takes off all the pressure. Sunny, for you too, will I still be in corporate in 10 years? It's okay if you do want to be part-time coaching. It's a great gig to have. Or do I want to have left? If I want to have left, what's the lifestyle I want to have created for myself? Who do I want to be in 10 years' time? That's the question I'm going to leave both of you with. And if you're listening in, it's a great question to sit with. Who do you want to be in 10 years? And start answering that. And when you've got your list of who you want to be in 10 years, start showing up as that person today. Every time there's a decision to make. Well, that in 10 years' time, how would I answer that? In 10 years' time, what would I say to this opportunity?
I just want to add, Rich, if it's okay. Yeah. I know you're looking to close it up, but because I've been a viewer of your podcast for a while now, I know that it might be helpful to share because I do have an insight from this conversation that I wanted to share, if it's okay.
I love it.
Like when you talk about going deep and the healing work that you want to do through your life, that matters to you. And actually when Sunny even said like the word superwoman, which is like kind of a trigger word, I don't really want to be a superwoman. I've actually intentionally left any desire to be a superwoman on a lot of levels. And so for me, authenticity and self-actualization have become two big words that really matter to me. You know, I've learned from hard-earned life lessons that I can fragment very easily if I go in the superwoman route. And I want to stay in the authenticity and actualization place. So when you talk about going deep and you talk about 10 years out and all of that kind of thing, what bubbles up are those two places to be.
So here's the challenge I have for you. Just like I couldn't not be that confidence guy if I tried, that's still underneath who I am. You couldn't not be Superwoman if you tried. Sunny's only been with you for a few minutes on this call, has already seen that's who you are. What you can do though, Rachel, is redefine what Superwoman looks like. There's the Superwoman we've known who can work all the hours God sends and can accomplish everything and be worn out, but put herself last, put everyone else first. There's an old dynamic of Superwoman. The mission I give to you, if you'd like to accept it, is in 10 years' time, what's the redefined definition of Superwoman? What's the 2031 definition of Superwoman? What's the Superwoman? Do you have girls or boys as kids?
Both.
How many girls?
One.
What if you could help her to be a new brand of Superwoman? What if you could help your young boys, if they're going to be in relationships with women, to find and be with a new type of Superwoman? What if that was your mission?
I love that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that. Sunny, what's your takeaway from anything today?
Yeah, and I love that you can create your own definition of what a word is for you, and live into it. I love that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you both. Thank you for playing.
No, thank you.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching, it was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.